ordered the project for the Gamble House living room armchair, you got a PDF with it. And those PDFs consist of a whole bunch of different templates as well as dimensions for the chair. So I just printed out some of them right now, and we're going to start working on these. The first one we're going to start working on is for the back leg for the side profile curve. What you're going to need for this part of the project is a nice straight edge, a utility knife, a pair of scissors, and some either Scotch tape, or I have a roll of moving tape, packaging tape. So when you printed out the plans from the PDF or the templates for each part, first thing you should do is not print them out at anything but 100%. So in Adobe Acrobat, when you go to print them, make sure on their page setup, everything's set at 100%, not fit to view, or anything else that would shrink it. There's already enough margin around each item for a regular standard inkjet printer. So as you'll see on these different PDFs, especially for this one, there's a number of parts to it. Each one of these items has to be cut and then combined in order to make our template. I'm going to take this last piece, set it aside over here, and take my next piece. And since I want these two to overlap, the part where the printer stops printing, where the black line is, that's where you're going to want to cut. Right, so we'll take our straight edge up to it, and then take our straight edge and just take away that last part of the template. With that last part of the template gone, we can then take the newly cut piece along with the piece after it and get them lined up. When you're lining them up, don't use the edges of the paper. Just pay attention to where the lines meet each other. Get a little bit of tape. One down, a few more to go. And now we have a nice profile for the back leg. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to take our straight edge and align it with the flat side of the front of the leg. Now that'll be our reference edge against the MDF. Now with that part cut, we're going to come over here and do the same thing to the bottom. And now we have two reference edges to use on our MDF. Now while we're still in this view, we're looking down on it, let's just do a quick little cut around. Okay, so over here at the table saw, we're going to cut a strip of MDF that's 4 inches wide. And we'll just have it be the length of this piece for right now for our template. So back over here at the table, we're going to take our repositionable mounting spray or temporary mounting spray. We're going to spray the back of this piece, and we're going to take this template, now that I've sprayed it, and what we need to do is align it, that square corner here on the bottom, to the square corner on our sheet of MDF. Now while I align it to the bottom, I also want to make sure that the straight part of the leg is also flush with the MDF. Now on the MDF piece here, we're already square over here. The sheet was relatively square. We're not too worried about that. We just need to align the cut for the cross cut on the table saw, on the sled, on your miter gauge, take off this piece right here. So we moved the dust collection over, we got that hooked up, got the dust collector behind us, and right now we're gonna throw on our safety gear and cut to the line. We're actually not on the line, but just proud of the line. I have one of these Home Depot contractor pencils. I usually buy a whole pack of them, and it takes me maybe a year to use them up or something. And we're going to use this to help us fill out our curves. So besides the pencil, we're going to need a block plane. A small one like this is fine, or a larger block plane is fine. And a Spokeshave. This is just a flat bottom Lee Nielsen Spokeshave. The curve that we're going to clean up with it, not just this one potentially, but more so this inside curve, you could use a rounded bottom Spokeshave, which I have, but the curve is so slight that we probably don't need it. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to take our piece and secure it in the bench. And with the piece secured in the bench, we'll take our pencil, and what I want to do, put in some pencil marks on our piece. The block plane is small enough that it can handle this curve. So what we're going to do is just slowly come with the block plane and just work on the front. We want to apply pressure on the front of the plane and not on the back of the plane. And as we take that first pass, the plane will ride all those high points and skip all the low points. So we'll take some material off, and we'll keep doing this until we fair this curve. I'll just check the template and see how we're doing. The front part's good. We got to work on the back transition right here. We want to make sure that we stay away from getting rid of material where we still need to be square. So what we can see here is I have this mortise for our back rails. They're both roughly in the same location. So we want to make sure that we keep it flat all the way through here. And right about here, you can tell when you look at the template is where we come down. So I'm just going to make myself a little bit of a mark right here. A little bit of a mark right here, just to make sure that I don't go past that point. You want to feel the whole curve, make sure it's fair everywhere. There's no crazy bumps or ridges. And we got one side done. So now the inside curve is pretty much just like the outside curve in the sense that we're going to do the same basic functions, except it's a little bit longer here. So I'm going to use a Spokeshave for the inside curve here because the sole of the planes is too long, even on this block plane, a shorter one. Now we want this nice and fair because we're going to use this to create our template routing jigs. We got this part faired in, and we're going to work back here. This is really not much of a curve. We can probably take the block plane here. Okay, that's probably as much as I can do. I'm going to take the Spokeshave and we now have a leg template that we can peel our paper off of. One template down, a whole bunch more to go. Okay, so the next template we're going to work on is the two templates for the arms. The back leg template that we finished for the back curve, doing the other curve for it, which as you look forward at the chair, as the leg moves up and then curves outward, it's the exact same process. So I'm not going to cover that one. It's just like the one before. And just like this template, we'll do a whole bunch of shaping. So let's get on to the arm template here. There's two templates for the arm. There is the side profile template as well as the top profile template. Both of these will be used to route the pattern for the arms on the chair. This one, as you can tell, tapers back. We have one flat edge and we taper back over here. And then on this one, we have another flat reference edge and then the taper as we go back here from the front of the arm towards the back of the arm. So what we'll do now is get the bandsaw going and we'll cut these guys up and clean them up. Back over here at the table saw, after we finished up the bandsaw cutting those rough tapers, I forgot to cut the side profile arm template to length. So I'm going to use this flat reference side, which was ripped on my table saw, what's left, to reference it against my crosscut sled and cut this piece to length. Okay, so with this cut to length, we have a couple things we still need to deal with. Number one is we're going to need to smooth this taper out. Number two, we're going to need to take this relief off, and we're not going to do it at the bandsaw. We're actually going to do it over at the router table in a couple of minutes. Now the top profile has angles for the cut for the front. So what we're going to do here is with our piece, and this is our referenced edge, we're just going to come and take our bevel gauge, grab our angle, and lock it down. Okay. With that locked in, we're going to now set our miter gauge. I'm going to lift the blade a little bit. We can now pivot the entire thing. What you want to do is when you're setting this up, you want to make sure that the piece of metal here from the miter, from the bevel gauge, does not make contact with any teeth. There we are. I think we're good. I'm going to lock it down. So I'm going to lower the blade down, which we did, and then we'll get this lined up. So let's make some sawdust. Set this guy aside, and we're going to need to route out this piece right here. So we're going to just kind of sneak up to this, start with a little bit and move up as we get to 1/4 of an inch. So over here at the oscillating spindle sander, we're going to fair up these curves, or actually take the waste away to make these curves in both the front and in the back. So back over here at the bench, we have both of our templates. And we're just going to do a little bit of cleaning up, just like we did in the last one. On this one, what we're going to do is we're going to put this in the vise, and we're going to take our pencil like we did last time, mark it out through the length. Now I'm not taking much off for each stroke, I just want to take a nice light pass, because I don't want to take too much material. We're going to take this template, set it aside, and move on to our next arm template, the side profile. Now, I spent a bunch of time on the oscillating spindle sander cleaning up this area right here, which I'm very happy with. It's nice and smooth. I also did the round over right here. The next thing we got to deal with is this taper here. I did a pretty decent cut on the bandsaw, but we're going to need a little bit of help. So what we're going to do here, same thing as before, we're going to mark it out. We're going to take our block plane, and we're going to come in at the beginning with it skewed and push forward. This way we're getting as much or as far back as we possibly can on the actual template, and as we're going forward, we'll flatten this out, and then we'll come back around with the Spokeshave and take care of this little piece that we can't get with the block plane. That's really good, really nice and smooth. This little segment right here, you know what I think is best? I'm going to put this back in the vise real quick, grab a chisel, and see about pairing that. Okay, so the next template we're going to work on is the one for the crest rail. I've already cut the paper, taped it, and adhered it to this piece of MDF. It's 5.5 inches tall. I'm not quite sure what the length is. I'm pretty sure it's 24 inches right now or so, or somewhere around there. Doesn't matter. We're going to trim it to length, and then once we trim it to length, we're going to head over to the bandsaw out these rough, well, as close as we can to the lines, the shape. Is over here at the Spindle Sander. We need to clean up some of these corners here. So we gotta come in and clean up this little corner, the inside and the outside, and the inside and the outside here, as well as on the other side. Oh, one other quick thing I just want to mention is that this template is wider than the actual piece is going to be. We don't know what the width is going to be for that piece yet until we actually build a chair and we pull that width off of the actual chair itself. So this template and the piece that you'll build using it, as far as the part is concerned, it will start larger than the actual width of the space between the two rear legs. Okay, so with the straight bit, well not straight, the spiral bit we have in here that we used before on the arms, I'm going to leave it in, and it's going to help us create this nice clean edge right here. So obviously right here I'm too far away, so I need to set my fence back so the bit and the just is going to touch that line. So I'm going to reach in. It's a good thing to also note that your router table should be unplugged at this time. But I'm going to reach in, move over, just so they're touching. We're going to need to drill some holes to get rid of the waste in this material here. So what I'm going to do is grab a Forstner bit. So I'm just taking a bit and I'm looking at the shape of the bit and the shape of the curve and seeing if they match. We're going to go with the 5/8 for the bottom. Yeah, I like the shape of the 3/4 inch a lot better for the top. Okay, I got my bit, my 5/8 bit chucked up in the drill press, and what I want to do now is drill out these two holes. I got a piece of another 1/4 inch piece of junk or stock that I'm willing to drill into below it, and since the flat part, well, the top is still flat here, only rounded over the corners, I can use this as a reference to drill holes here that are parallel or on the same plane at least. Alright, so we pushed through on the first hole, we're going to move over, drill the next hole out. Alright, first two holes drilled out. Let's change the bit over and we'll drill out the next two. Okay, I got the 3/4 inch bit in now. I've got the fence positioned so that the 3/4 bit will enter the workpiece in the correct location. Let's get drilling. Okay, well we're got 4 holes, 2 for the bottom, 2 for the top. I'm a little bit too low on the bottom. That's not a big deal. It really doesn't matter as long as the shape looks the same or similar when we're done. 1/16 of an inch or so here is not going to be the end of the world. And what I've done is I've got the fence set up so that when I drop in my template piece, I am just, I don't know, 1/16 of an inch or so proud of where the bottom of these two holes are. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop this in with the bit spinning through the hole and then route across. And then we'll move back to the line so we get a nice clean cut there. Okay, we got this guy routed out. And we got a nice even line on the top, nice even line on the bottom. Next thing we're going to do is we're just going to knock out some of this material. Alright, we got the junk out. And now all we got to do is take this over to the spindle sander and clean up these corners. Forgot to do one thing. We need to take this template back over to the bench, and with the Spokeshave, we need to figure out or smooth over these flat spaces here and right here as well. So let's head over to the bench real quick and finish this template off. Okay, so just like before with this template, we have a couple of spots we need to clean up. So I'm just going to do the same thing, grab my pencil, mark the MDF. I just have some 80 grit paper on here, which is more than fine for this. All right, I think we're there. So we're back over here at the bandsaw, and I took the liberty to prep our 2 next templates. That will be the center back slat for the chair, as well as the template for the side slats. So I'm just going to cut these both out at the same time here on the bandsaw, and then we'll go over to the bench and clean them up. As before, for the outside curve, I'm definitely going to use the block plane, applying pressure to the front of the plane and not over the entire length of the plane, as well as I'm going to work downhill in one direction, flip it around, and work downhill in the other direction. So it's okay to be a little bit wide on these templates as far as being wide of the line. We're going to need a little bit of extra meat on each side in order to help us fit the tenons for both the top and the bottom for the center and the side back slats into the rear apron and the upper crest rail. And we'll flip this around. Okay, looks like we got the side slat, the side back slat pretty good on the outside. Now let's focus on the inside curve. Perfect. We got one nice side back slat profile for one direction. Flip it over, we got the other direction. So let's move on to the center back slat. This guy's curved. We may be able to try it out in the block plane. Let's give it a shot. Yeah, I can feel the block plane riding too much in the curve. We're going to have to move over to the Spokeshave. Great. Now the question becomes, what do we do with the center here? My answer to that is, if you got pretty close, let's leave it for now. we're going to do a little bit of work on this when we actually have the piece, and we'll drill a nice little 1/8 inch, I think it's 1/8 of an inch. Don't quote me on it, but we'll drill a little hole through here. We'll connect those 2 points, and then we'll bandsaw to those and clean those up on the bandsaw later when we have the actual piece. But this is good enough to get us where we need to be on the bottoms, the size, the overall shape in the middle, or the rough shape more so in the middle, but the overall shape on the outside of the template. So that's great, 2 down. There's a couple more left to go. So we're back here at the table saw, and we're going to rip some strips off this MDF, and we're going to use those to help make some rough templates for the rear legs, the front legs, and the aprons. The first strip will be 4 inches wide, and that one will be for the rear legs. The next strip after that we're going to make is going to be 1 3/8 inches wide. The strip that'll take care of the front legs, the 1 3/8 inches, the rear legs, then we'll move on to the rails. Okay, I got the crosscut sled set up, and I grabbed some of the printouts from the plan, and we're going to cross-cut these guys to length. Now, when we cross-cut these to length, I'm going to round up. So, for instance, the first one I'm looking at here is for the rear rail, and it's telling me it's 15 inches wide plus 55/64. So anyways, I'm just going to round that up to 16, and so on and so forth. These are just, remember, rough dimensions. They're going to help us get the rough shape for our individual parts. Okay, so we're back over here at the assembly table, and we have a whole bunch of MDF on the table. I like to mark all of my templates as well as my jigs. So what I recommend you doing right now is take a couple of quick minutes and grab a Sharpie or a marker or a pen of some kind and mark all of your templates.